My favorite night of the week is we're going to go out there and we're playing to win. We're not out here just to just show up. We're out here to win.
I don't want guys that want to win. Because really, who doesn't? Nobody wants to win. Everybody wants to win. I want players that hate to lose.
This embodies everything that we are as a team, as an organization. You know, our motto is keep pounding. And that's what we do. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, what's up, Panther fans? It's your boy, the Professor, a.k.a. Tony Dunn, and this is the C3 Podcast, brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com, where every Tuesday night we chop up the latest Panthers news and opinions from the fan perspective. I do it with my homeboys, Joe Riolano, Mel Mayock, also known as Aaron Ford. Aaron, how's it going?
Doing good, man. We just got done, for those of you that weren't with us, just got done with the C3 Fantasy Football Draft Order Selection Show. Lots of fun, so let's just keep the momentum going in. We got a great show for everybody here tonight.
Joe, a lot of numbers flying around, a lot of names flying around on the C3 Fantasy, on the Draft Selection Show. It's wild, isn't it? He's muted. All right. Let's go ahead and keep popping into the show while Joe finds himself in his mute button. Guys, tonight's show is episode 17.29, and it is What's Up, Doc, Not Jacksonville. There's Joe. He found the mute button. Joey, we got a fantastic show tonight. We're going to be, I got a quick interview with Dr. Chao. He's the former team physician for the San Diego Chargers. He wrote an article for the San Diego Tribune 2 weeks ago about how it's not time to worry about Cam yet. So we're going to get a little info about Cam Newton's shoulder surgery, the process of that surgery, the rehab process, and where he thinks Cam Newton is along those lines in the process. Mel, you were saying you heard Dr. Chao today on the radio, right?
Yeah, you know, today's been a kind of a long day. I had about 7 hours behind the wheel, and I was listening to the NFL station on Sirius satellite radio, and they references Dr. Chao today. So he was kind of one of the experts that in team doctors, you know, in sports medicine. They were talking about him today, where he was talking about the rise in the number of ACL injuries out there in the league this year. Last year, there were 22 ACL injuries in the preseason. So far this year, through 2 weeks, there's been 20. So they're on the rise. Let's just hope they stay away from Charlotte.
Holy cow. You can find him on Twitter at ProFootballDoc with big old 61,000 followers. How do you like that now? Cash me outside on that one. And we've also got beat writer from First Coast News of the Jacksonville Jaguars, Mike Kaye, on the show to help us preview a little bit about the Jacksonville Jaguars. So we got all that going on.
A lot going on with that Jaguars team right now.
There is a ton. I had a lot to ask them. We packed a ton into about 11 minutes. So we got all that going on. Mel and Joe will be participating hopefully in the YouTube chats as those interviews are going down. And towards the end of the show, we have probably the best segment that has ever lived on the C3 Podcast, and it is here to stay. And it's going to be cat calls. We've opened up a phone line now, a dedicated phone line for fans of the show, Panther Nation, to leave a voicemail. You can leave as many as you want, any time of day, 24 hours a day. You can be as creative as you want. I've got a beep button that I can use if necessary, and I suggest everybody have a ton of fun with it. The number is 252-228-5098. I encourage everybody to call. We've got some fantastic calls to set this segment off towards the end of the night. I promise you, you will not want to miss that. And of course, we have the Ice Up picks. So tons to talk about, guys. I want to get everybody to go, if you're watching the show, to smash that like button on Facebook, on YouTube, anywhere you're like. If you're watching on Periscope, click those hearts away. Also, we'd love for you to share the show on social media. It's that easy. You just click the share button, and you share it with your Panther friends and help us grow as a podcast, because we're going into our 5th season as a podcast. We come each and every week, and we're really getting better each and every week, bringing you larger interviews, better guests or more guests each and every week, and just coming up what I think with creating a fantastic fan discussion. So if you enjoy that, follow us at cat_chronicles on Twitter. Go to carolinacatchronicles.com for your latest news, and even consider donating to our Patreon account. And as little as $1 a month, or even just a one-time donation of $1 or $2 can help us continue to pay for services like Facebook live stream, if you're streaming to different accounts, the website, various things. All right.
Professor, hey, another thing I want to throw out there that everybody can do, because Carolina Cat Chronicles, easy for me to say, was really started to be the voice of Panther Nation, right? I mean, that's what we are. So everybody out there has an opportunity. If you have an article, something that you want to write about, whether it be the DB depth situation, Julius Peppers, Cam Newton, Joe Webb versus DA, anything you want to write about, email it over to Tony or Joe or myself. We'll get it up on the website. That's what it's for. It's to get your voice heard, your thoughts heard. This is your chance to get published.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And you're right. We've been just growing man, I've been so excited about the guests we've had. In fact, let's just go ahead and jump in before we start talking about any news or anything like that. Let's go ahead and jump into this first interview with Dr. Chao. All right, I'd like to welcome Dr. David Chao, medical board certified orthopedic surgeon with a subspecialty certification in sports medicine and former head team physician for the San Diego Chargers, to the C3 Carolina Panthers podcast. Thank you for joining the podcast, Dr. Chao.
Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. I reached out to you because Cam Newton partially tore a rotator cuff in week 14 against the Chargers. He didn't miss any snaps in the final 3 weeks of the season. And initially, Carolina was a little clandestine about the injury, saying it wasn't a tear, but then later came clean that the MRI revealed a partial tear. Could you just tell us a little bit about the nature of this type of injury?
Absolutely. First of all, I have not examined Cam Newton or seen his MRIs. And if I had, or if you were a patient, I wouldn't be able to talk about it because of HIPAA privacy laws. But having been in the industry still as an orthopedic surgeon, but team physician, etc., I can tell you that there's a big difference between a partial tear and a full tear. A full thickness tear requires a repair with suturing. A partial thickness tear usually just requires a debridement or trimming, which makes the recovery timeline much more quick than if there was some suturing requiring healing. The difference is like that of mowing the lawn and being able versus laying down new sod and needing to keep off the grass until the roots grow in.
Excellent analogy. Panthers head trainer Ryan Vermillion explained why they did not initially opt for surgery, stating, "We had developed a plan for Cam to take a period of rest, a period of rehabilitation and treatment, and then start a gradual throwing program the first part of March." He then continued and said Cam started his program and the early parts of his rehab had been going well. However, as he worked forward and advanced to the next stage, the strengthening stage, the throwing stage, he started to have an increase in the pain level and started to have pain while throwing. Now, I'm at reading this is, why do you think they may have not opted for surgery initially?
Well, first off, the ultimate decision for surgery is of course on behalf of the patient. The patient gets to decide, the player gets to decide. And it's the doctor's jobs, the medical staff's jobs to present options. I'm not saying Cam Newton refused it. I'm just saying if you have a option of conservative care or rehab, or a recommendation of a trial of conservative care or rehab first, I think most people would take that before taking the surgical route. However, it seems to come clear that the rehab conservative care route wasn't working, and they switched gears for surgery.
Is the conservative care route generally, when I read about this, I saw that that's usually used when people don't use their shoulder as much. With a quarterback, that is an intensive practice. Do you just think that that's a personal decision? Not speculating on what he did, but if you as a doctor, is that something that you just try first?
Well, you'd have to look at the circumstances. I mean, if you had a small partial thickness tear, I think it's very reasonable to try conservative care. If you had a larger tear or you had bone spurs associated with it, and depending on the symptoms and the timing, surgery sometimes is the smarter choice. I wasn't there. They obviously made a choice for conservative care, and then decided on surgery later on when they thought it wasn't going the way they wanted it to go.
Now, I've read that 12 weeks. The Panthers announced this, that the 12 weeks following surgery, Cam was to begin an early throwing program, and if he progressed well, he would start throwing with the team at 16 weeks. And their goal was to have him back by training camp. Now, it's been a little bit over 16 weeks, but can you tell us, if you're treating a patient, what that timeline is, that 12-week to 16-week in the recovery process for someone that has undergone this procedure?
Well, of course, it depends on his cuff strength and how sore he is and how much swelling there is. Certainly throwing is one of the hardest motions we ask our shoulder and our body to do. So it's good to be conservative. It sounds like he had a little hiccup there where he was shut down and a little bit of soreness. But remember, it's preseason. It's probably not bad to be conservative rather than rush through some things. I would have thought that he should be able to return to full throwing in 3 or 4 months after surgery, like the timeline suggested. Right now, I think he's a tad behind, but, they're just probably being cautious.
Right. You wrote in your article in the San Diego Union Tribune titled, "No Need to Be Alarmed About Cam Newton Yet." No word of Newton having undergone an MRI is a good sign of no worrying regarding structural damage. He likely saw a surgeon and had a cortisone or PRP injection to calm down inflammation. And that he's out there. You went on and continued and said that the fact that he's practicing indicates they haven't shut him down completely. Do you think this is just being cautious?
Well, I think they're being cautious. I would assume they're being smart. The picture of someone who has a pending problem, someone who's not practicing. Of course, he's going through all the run sets and run plays, and you're certainly still using your shoulder, but not putting the extra stress of throwing on it. I'm quite sure, and I think it's been reported, he's been throwing as part of his rehab on the side. He probably was shut down initially for a week or so, and then back on a throwing program, but not quite turned loose yet in terms of getting back to games or full throwing at practices, etc.
He did do some limited throwing yesterday in a joint practice with the Titans. So I think that, if there was real problems, that you wouldn't see that as much. What I would ask is what do you think the approach that you may advise an athlete, not Cam, but coming off this in the preseason? Like, do you expect it? Would you want to see him pushing? Like you said, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. You made that analogy in your article. Do you encourage the person to maybe play in one preseason game?
Well, I think that's a part coaching, part rehab, part medical, part player decision. I mean, some players need to / want to play and get back into it first, and some probably can do it without. So I think as much as this is somewhat of a medical decision, I'm sure this is a multifactorial decision between coaching, player, and a little bit management as well as to what to do. It is, good to push rehab. Of course, there's a fine line between pushing too hard and then needing to slow down. I mean, Cam's a race car, and you're supposed to accelerate out of the turns. And that's I'm sure that's what they're trying to do.
Do you what do you think the Panthers would look for just in the future? Are there, like, with a surgery like this, are there any long-term type of concerns not, that could continue to rise down later in his career?
Well, anytime you deal with a throwing shoulder on a quarterback, I mean, that's the moneymaker. So there is some concern. But short of that concern, because it is so important, there really isn't a lot of medical concern from this procedure.
Fantastic. Well, I want to thank you so much for taking your time, Dr. Chao, to explain so much to our audience for this. And I hope you have a wonderful evening. All right, that is Dr. Chao, former NFL head team doctor for the San Diego Chargers, and Sirius XM sports medical analyst. You can follow him at Pro Football Doc on Twitter. Mel, that's some. I felt like there was nothing to worry about after talking to him.
Yeah, it's good to hear it from somebody independent, somebody outside of the Panthers building, to tell you that they feel like he's on track. It's not concerns. The shutting down of him during training camp was just being cautious and conservative. And I think, and I heard today he is expected to start Thursday night, and he's going to get his first action of the preseason. To me personally, I don't want him to play at all. I'd like to see San Francisco be the first game, but they're going to try him out there this week.
Yeah, they are, or at least that's all reports right now, as in we still have one more day, I guess, of practice. The game's on Thursday. Good news about that is that not only has Cam Newton been throwing 2 consecutive days,
but who he's been throwing to.
Curtis Samuel is back, or it has been more than limited. Right. I don't know if they've let him. They certainly, I don't think, have let him fully out the gate just yet. But Samuel is back, which I think is huge. Joey's mute button is on, so if Joe, whenever you're ready to come back, we'll bring you into the conversation. But here, Mel, I'm going to pose this to you. You got Cam Newton throwing in that. Or I'll ask Joey. To me, I think Curtis Samuel is going to be necessary for this team going forward. And I was on a podcast recently, and someone said to me I was talking about the team, about the Carolina Panthers, and I was just gushing and gushing and gushing about the team and the defense and all these things. And they said, well, look, what's really different about this offense? And all I had was McCaffrey. That was it. Which was enough. We've seen him.
Left tackle is the offensive line play in the preseason is night and day compared to last year. That's the thing I'm most excited about so far.
Joe, what do you think? Cam Newton potentially playing in this, or it looks like he's going to be playing in this third game as well as Samuel. Does that really make this offense much Is that a huge difference?
Oh yeah, I think. With Cam coming in, first of all, showing he's able to run this new offense with the short, quick passes, with the faster reads he's going to be making. You're going to see a totally different offense. And with Samuel coming in, to mention a whole nother style of play and incorporate to this evolving offense. He brings a whole nother skill set with him. Being able to line up in various positions, taking the top off of the defense speed, just a lot more options for Cam to use on the field.
Well, yeah, speaking of options, there's some really good comments right now in the YouTube chat. What you got this is that I saw the first one that I saw. Hold on, I got to go back. It was if Shula, hold on, where did it go? Here, it's from Slim J513. If Samuel doesn't line up in the backfield, Shula isn't being creative enough. Right, that was one comment. And then it said this is Junkie for Fame said Samuel and McCaffrey on the field is going to be awesome. And then Kurt Izzy was talking about, like Joey was saying, stretching the field and taking away extra help from Christian McCaffrey at the line is what Curtis Samuel can do. So there's some fantastic things going on. Even like Adam Sanders says, CMC, Samuel, and Stewart, Cam doesn't even need to run anymore except for playmakers in the end zone. So what you get right here, too, is I think Samuel does bring a completely different dynamic to the team. To be honest, I think that Bird brings that dynamic in many ways. You know, I got a glove on some Bird. But the problem is we are going to have to see that creativity from Shula. If you've watched these preseason games, it's been Funchess, Benjamin, and Russell Shepard. And the only difference has been Christian McCaffrey. Now, the thing, though, Mel, you said the offensive line play has been night and day. The reason that it was hard for me to make that argument on this podcast that I was a guest on, 32 teams in 32 days, he's a Vikings fan. So he thinks that Matt Khalil is just straight trash, period.
So what did you have to say about Remmers when you asked him about that?
He said, well, he's hopeful he's going to be playing right tackle and not left.
So he's still going to be garbage.
Yes. Oh, there's no doubt about it. Is that, first of all, we know that Khalil is an upgrade from Remmers.
Oh, for sure.
There's a big difference in healthy Khalil and an injured Khalil. And he was injured the last 2 years there in Minnesota.
We've seen him in limited action, but what we have seen from him has been Impressive. All right, Abe Burns wants a shout out on YouTube, on Facebook Live. You got it, brother. So yeah, I do think the offensive line play has been has been much improved. Let's go on then. So those are some things. We'll talk a little bit more about Jacksonville when we get to Mike Kaye, but let's talk about this Titans game. We have to be. First, I can't believe I was so excited talking on this podcast about the Panthers team after we played that preseason game. It was bad, guys. The Titans game was bad. What happened? Right off the bat, their offense just drove down the field and did everything. You saw... At any time Charles Johnson was on the field, I saw zero pressure. We are really struggling to get pressure up the middle without KK and Starr up there every down. We need Butler back. And then they just picked apart our secondary and ran. They did whatever they wanted to us for about 2 quarters. And then on top of that, we made a lot of mistakes.
Let me give you one statistic that is pretty good. The run, they averaged under 4 yards per carry rushing. We averaged 7.7 yards per carry. That's a big daggum deal. And if you extrapolate that out over the entire game, I'm not going to sit here and get too daggum worried over preseason when we didn't have Cam Newton and we didn't have Luke Kuechly. I'm sorry. I'm just not going to get too upset over it.
How did they only average 4 yards a carry when that third running back broke like a 70-yard run against us, I felt like? Derrick Henry just was a monster against us. Now, I'm not going to worry, too. Let's go ahead. Like Olsen said, the sky is falling. But you know what? I am going to say this is, dang, DA is trash. He sucks.
He's going to block you again, man.
I'm already blocked. He can't block me again. I'm already, like they said in Super Troopers, I'm already pulled over. I can't pull over anymore.
Are you on the Joe Webb train?
Yeah, I guess I've never been a DA fan. I've always been super protective of Cam when it comes to, do you remember for a long time, even through last year, people are like, put in DA, he's better. He's not good anymore or ever. and he threw a terrible pick into traffic. He missed he missed a wide open Benjamin when he threw to McCaffrey on the side. He missed McCaffrey in the middle on a wide open. So he made mistakes after mistake. I don't think he played well. Now, I was a little angry when I said he's trash. That was probably too much. But he did not play well. And Jonathan Stewart, we didn't get any push. We didn't get any push on the offensive line when Jonathan Stewart was out there. Night and day when McCaffrey was running the ball, though.
Okay. Now, and you know who the leading rusher for the Panthers is in the preseason? Thank you, Amanda Helms, for tweeting that out about 20 minutes ago.
Who?
Artis Payne. Cameron Artis Payne is the Panthers' leading rusher in the preseason, but he has looked shifty. He has looked good. He looks like Jonathan Stewart 2.0. I'd like to see him get a little bit more of a chance with the one. See.
Joan just tweeted me, and she's mad that we put the C3 fantasy football draft at the same time as Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Well, I did tell her, hey, you do have a DVR, Joan.
Yeah.
Watch that thing after the
draft.
Like.
You got an iPad, you got a laptop, you got all those things.
Finale, just so you know.
Oh, it is the season finale?
Yes.
Yeah, that is hard. You know, it's over in like 30 minutes. We can't change it now. Somebody should have brought this up earlier. And where was everybody last year when we did it at the same exact time? All you 23 million Game of Thrones watchers. All right. All right. So, Mel, tell me again. I'm sorry, I got distracted. Who's the leading rusher? Who?
Cameron Artis Payne.
Is the leading rusher in what? For the whole team?
Where are you at, Tony?
I was reading
Cameron Artis Payne
stuff.
is the leading rusher for the Panthers in the preseason this year.
Man. Well, you know what? I'll tell you where I've been at. I've been on the Cameron Artis Payne train for a long, long time, man. And I'm going to tell you this, is that Cameron Artis Payne made some good moves. He runs hard. He's pretty dang fast still. He's a thumper. He's still got legs. He reminds me of Jonathan Stewart when he was a little younger. Not as good as Jonathan Stewart was at his heyday.
I'm saying he's Jonathan Stewart 2.0. It's in the preseason. Give the guy a chance to run with some of the ones. Last year, when he played with the ones, he averaged over 5 yards a carry. I mean, the guy's a player. Give him a shot.
I agree.
Better not get cut, in my opinion.
I agree 100%.
That's a bad move by Carolina.
Yeah. On top of that, is we talked a couple of weeks ago with Max Henson from the Panthers, and he cited that that it was special teams. Now, I can't believe that the guy can't contribute. Like, can you not teach him to play better special teams? Right? Right? Like, can you not coach that aspect up? But the other thing is, I did see him miss or make a bad read on a blitz, on a picking up a block in that game.
That is crucial.
But there was one other time. But see, Fozzie Whitaker did too as well in that game as also. But one other thing, though, is that Cameron Artis Payne looked bad on one play that was completely on Dixon. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you this, is our tight ends cannot block for crap. Any of them. If Greg Olsen didn't have 1,000 yards per season and you only looked at his blocking, you would not be happy.
He would be cut.
Yeah, they were. I mean, Dixon, every single one of them stinks. We don't have a good blocking tight end. Michael King says
Ben Hartsock when you need him.
Yeah, why can't we get? Yeah, well, he's with the Eagles now, I think.
They did sign him.
Well, at least I saw that on the fantasy football roster. Like when I was looking through players. Michael King says this on Facebook Live. J. Stu has been a no-show. C-Mac has had positive yards every time he touches it. And yes, bring the pain. What a great comment that is on Facebook Live. Well done, Michael King. I agree 100% with that. You know, one thing, though, is that Christian McCaffrey has been so good, I almost want him to run every down. I mean, he has been phenomenal. Like, having him not out there as much as possible to me is a mistake at this point. He is electrifying.
No doubt.
And really, we've only seen just a handful of carries from him.
Yes. I mean, he just shot right up the middle on that one play.
Right.
He didn't even need to make a move. But that screen that he ran for 38 yards
was awesome.
It was amazing. And I think it was Bill Voth that tweeted this out. He said that, look, McCaffrey just looked different. And it's straight true. All right, let's go to some other, I guess. What else stood out in that game to you guys, in the Titans game? Look, Funchess, again, starts off, and somebody mentioned this in the comments. Talk about really just setting a bad tone for that game. Funchess, he fumbles the ball. When is the guy? What do you think? What do you guys think about? I think KB was just balling. KB was ready to go. KB could be better than he was his rookie year this year. I think he's hungry for it. But I don't know. Is Funchess, is he the guy? Because the coaching staff has given him a lot of grace.
You know, I have yet to see why David Gettleman traded up in the second round to get him. I have not seen what we need to see in him. And I hope to be proven wrong. I hope he is awesome this year. But I just haven't seen it, man. He's got to show more than he has.
Joe, Funchess, is he going to work out? Look, you got Junkie for Fame saying Funchess needs to be cut.
I've always been a Funchess. But, they say he's had a good camp, but they say that every year about him. And making that first catch in the opening play of the Titans game was a step in the right direction, but then losing the ball. And, it wasn't like he took a huge hit. He just didn't put the ball away securely.
No, he just got popped from behind. He just got popped from behind.
Right. If he would have had it, he should have, and wouldn't have gotten popped out. But he was just careless with the football, and it cost him. And it's things like that, the little things that you do them right, and that's how you guarantee to make the team. But when you're careless with the football, like he was, coaches don't go for that, man.
Well, go ahead, Mel. You had something to say?
I was just going to say, once you start getting the reputation that you're going to put the ball on the turf, every time he catches the ball, that defender's going to be coming in punching that ball.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Here's some cool comments on Facebook Live. Expect to see them use Christian McCaffrey like the Steelers use Le'Veon. He'll be on the field most plays, backfield, flexed out, etc. Charles Hill on Facebook says McCaffrey looks like Thurman Thomas for the early 90s Bills. You know what is that I'm all in on Christian McCaffrey. I'm going to go ahead and say this, is that I was completely wrong, 100% wrong on the concept that we should take Fournette over McCaffrey if that decision was the case. I am a McCaffrey man now. He has won me in the preseason alone. And you know what? This is what goes, Mel. I made a huge mistake in draft talk. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you, and this is one I don't make a lot because usually I don't get into the draft like crazy. I let my eyeballs be fooled by paper.
Well, not alone. 32 teams would have taken Fournette over McCaffrey.
Well,
the Panthers would have taken Fournette before they took McCaffrey. So you're not alone in that.
Yeah, I just feel like this is that I too much was bought into the draft people's like stats for like what this, where you can paper dissect somebody. And I just have to go back and say, well, you know what? The Fournette tape was pretty dang good too when he was out there. So I ain't gonna lie. But you just got to say this. Sometimes players just play. I don't care if they're Steve Smith size or as big as Cam Newton. Players play.
That's right. And Ken, if he's listening, his point about taking Fournette first was because he's bigger, stronger, faster. During the sports science measurements, he tested out as a freak. But you know what? At the end of the day, it is a football player. It's not an athletic competition. And there's something about McCaffrey. He understands angles. He understands leverage. He knows how to get into a crease, make himself skinny, getting through a hole. I mean, he is the real deal. Now, granted, he hadn't stepped foot on the football field in a regular season game yet. So we got to see how he does under the bright light.
I know, man, but I am back. I'm in. It's what we've seen has been pretty damn awesome. Yep. To this point, is that somebody, I think it was Sports Despair maybe, who just put after that screen pass, vroom. Like, I mean, just man, it's crazy. All right, Mario wants to know this: is what do you guys think about it was Bird returning kicks, and Bird. I think Bird, he made a mistake in that game. He fielded a punt inside the 10.
Yep.
Right?
He had a rough week last week. He had a rough practice against the Titans, dropped 3 passes where they should have caught. He's going to have a good week this week. Is he on the bubble, or did that first game against the Texans, did that secure his spot?
Well, it went a long way. I can't say it guaranteed him a spot, though. It did go a long way in helping him get there. Guaranteed. He needs one more good game.
So who are the receivers? You got KB, Funchess, Samuel, locked.
Yeah.
And then you got Shepard, locked.
Yep, lock.
Yeah.
And then it comes down to this: is that's 4, right? So we're gonna keep 5 at the. We'll keep 5 for sure.
Now they probably will keep 6.
The only thing that makes me...
We know 5 for sure, probably 6. But that's it. I don't think they go any more than 6.
No, they definitely don't go more than 6. In fact, Marty Herney's teams only went more than 6 one time ever, and it was when Steve Smith, his number 1 receiver, was battling an injury.
So, guys, here's a tough one. If there's only 5, if they only keep 5, is it Bird or Burson?
It's Bird.
I think it's got to be Bird. I think that if you got to keep Burson around, then you should cut Funchess.
He is Mr. Reliable as a last wide receiver.
Well, that's fine, but so is Russell Shepard. I feel like Russell Shepard and Burson are duplicates of each other, and Funchess is bigger and more athletic than them, but plays smaller than them. I mean, not Bird. I said Funchess. Funchess, you know what I'm saying? It's like Funchess has got all the tools to be better than those dudes, and he's not. Russell Shepard and Burson are ahead of Funchess in my book, surprisingly, for that consistent receiver. So that's going to be messed up.
You know what you said last week, Professor, and I've thought about it a lot this week, or you said a few weeks ago, is one problem with this Panthers team is there's not a lot of true competition at the position battles up and down the roster. I think Funchess has been handed this job. And I
agree. I totally agree.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's fair to say.
I'm going to tell you the reason we don't keep 6 receivers, though. And that is because we have even Bill Voth is talking about we don't have any safeties. What have I been saying? I have been saying this for 3 years, first of all. This is one of the reasons I wasn't necessarily gung-ho on McCaffrey, is I was hoping we would get Adams. That's what I was praying for. I was hoping for. I think we should have picked a safety somewhere in this draft, but we didn't, and we got nothing. All we got is Mike Adams and Kurt Coleman, and that's it. So
nothing after that. You're right.
You better expect this, is that the Panthers are about to pick up, and it was I'm pretty sure it was Amanda Helms who said that we were just going to pick up, we're going to cut to 50 players and then just pick up 3 safeties in free agency when all the other teams cut.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're going to have to. We need some of that. Shaked said, can Corn play strong safety? Who knows? He can't play anything right now because...
No, he's too little.
Too little and also injured. So then, you're right. So some other things is let's see, some couple of comments, and then we'll get to the Mike Kaye interview real quick. Matt Khalil has been handed the left tackle job. Well, you should when you pay him $55 million. Mike Adams, Kurt Izzy said, looks rusty. So there are some questions about this team, but I do think that the strength of this team is the defense. One of the things, did anybody notice that we played a lot of base defense in that game against the Titans? We trotted out 3 linebackers pretty much the whole, a lot of the game. What does that tell us about what this team is trying to do or what they have to do? I heard a lot of people complaining about this on Twitter, and I was thinking about it. I was thinking, well, first, you want to get a couple of these guys out there at the same time. You want Shaq and you want TD. You got to figure out how to use them, right? So we're going to be trying to trot out 3 linebackers. But my thing is this, does that tell us about anything about the cornerback position when you would rather put Shaq in there rather than that extra cornerback?
I don't know. I do know that there is a quandary that they have, that they really want to get Shaq Thompson on the field more because they truly believe he is a playmaker. And historically, the only way to get him on the field is to take Thomas Davis off the field. But Thomas Davis is the heartbeat of that team.
And he's good. So he's just damn good still.
Yeah, so they're trying – it might be as simple – I think it's as simple as they're trying to figure out how they can get their best players on the field more often, and they feel like Shaq Thompson is better than a nickel corner that they would possibly bring in. So they want to try out that Buffalo nickel concept more and see where it goes.
Do you think that can work in this NFL?
Absolutely. Now, where the Buffalo nickel hurts you is when you face a really good running team and you got a 220-pound linebacker that they're gonna put a bullseye on him and run right at him. So they're gonna run that way. So I think it will hurt us in the run more than the spread.
Having Shaq out there rather than nickel corner?
Well, I just think the concept of having 3 linebackers and your third linebacker being a Buffalo nickel, being a 220-pound linebacker, is going to hurt you in the run game instead of having a 250-pound thumper that comes out there. Like if you brought Mayo in as a third linebacker, your defense is going to be much stouter against the run. But what we've had trouble with is against the Atlantas of the world, where Devontae Freeman and these guys spread you out. And that's where the Buffalo nickel is going to be beneficial to us, in my opinion.
See, I feel like I'm on the other side of it, is that I think that we would be great against the run in that case. You get Shaq Thompson up there who can play the run, who can rush the passer. You got those guys, Kuechly, Thomas Davis, all good tacklers. It's the question of, can Shaq keep up with receivers? He made the great play against Larry Fitzgerald, but can he stick with somebody a little bit more fleet of foot than an older Fitzgerald? Joe, where do you come in on this? Do you think that playing 3 linebackers out there at the same time can work in this NFL?
Well, I'm getting ready to post an article about Shaq Thompson and how see more time. He is good enough to cover some of your bigger receivers. In fact, I think he lost 12 pounds in this offseason.
He did. He thinks he can play better that way.
To move better. Can cover some of these quicker guys. Because I do believe he'll be getting more time on the field. And yes, I think it can work. There are going to be times where he's going to go match up against a smaller receiver that's going to have a speed advantage on him. And, those are the times when we're going to have to really see that front four, get that push, get after the quarterback. But yeah, I think it can work, and I think it will. It's just going to be a matter of, not doing it so often that it becomes a vulnerability.
Now, one thing I'll point out is the NFL Network was talking today. Ross Tucker on NFL was pointing out, with that lost weight, there becomes a vulnerability, and opposing teams are going to be pulling their guards and running right at him because he can't shed that block as easily at that weight. So that's an issue to watch.
I think he's strong enough still, though. I think that the losing the weight will be an advantage for him because he said that he felt like he had to bulk up. And the coach just said this is sometimes players just need to play at the weight they feel is better for them. And we trust that. So coach did say it. I get that point is that you ask guys that are strong safeties like Jeremy Cash, who comes into the league, who's trying to become a linebacker. You're like, you got to put pounds on, bro. You got to put pounds on. You don't really hear about them wanting to slim them down. But I think that what we need Shaq to do requires him to be slimmer. And
I agree. He's got to be lighter to move better.
Yeah, because you're actually not asking him to be just a prototypical linebacker. You're asking him to do things that safeties do and play linebacker position. Relly Rel said this: the Saints picked on Shaq with Cooks in the slot when we ran the Buffalo nickel. Cooks can pick on anybody, though, right? But that's the truth, is that when they see three linebackers out there, they're going to try to attack that in a certain way. And you're going to have to figure out how to maybe not disguise it, but how to adjust to limit their ability to do that. And then Christopher Kelton says, we need Shaq to enforce the line and cover the opponent's best tight end. Shaq put Trey McBride, who's a small receiver, on his ass in that game. He came up. Trey McBride tried to come up and try to jack up on Shaq, in a block on a run play, and Shaq just pushed him down and put him on his butt. Put Trey McBride on his backside just so easily. So I think it's going to help. I think it was necessary. I do think this, and Joey, you might be able to help me, and Mel, you can help me on this as well. One of the things we saw when we had three linebackers out there, and I just don't know about the actual formations enough to understand this. I was Googling it and trying to figure it out. When we threw three linebackers out there, they put a man in motion every time. And they put a running back in motion or they put a wide receiver in motion, and Shaq half the time or more times than not trailed that third receiver. What is that? What are they trying to learn about the team in the defense when they do that?
Well, they're trying to see if they're in man coverage or in zone coverage or what type of a hybrid that they're looking at. Because if you send somebody in motion and somebody follows them, that means that person's responsible for that person.
Right.
So they're not in a zone, which could dictate the routes that the different receivers are going to run.
When you say a hybrid, how do you mix the two together, and how can we use it? How do we prevent that from being a complete giveaway?
See, I think that's a question that they're going to have to evolve and be smart with. I think that you need to be able to adjust and communicate and perhaps do something like follow the back across, but then switch into a zone where the other linebacker switch over into the spot that was vacated to begin with, right? So, I mean, that's what you have to do to it up. But that is something that people can exploit, and you'll see Tom Brady's the master at that. He's going to send people into different formations, different shifts to see what the defense, what they're doing, and then they have different options based on what they see the defense doing.
And that's what we're going to be doing with Christian McCaffrey on our side is we've done that a ton in that case. But there has to be a way to account for that. There, like you said, there has to be a way to adjust. And there has to be a way to adjust in that Buffalo nickel spot to lessen how weak of – maybe it's just as simple as what corners you got out there or what safeties you put out there in a line along with them. Or maybe do you have Julius Peppers – dropping back, or more? You saw a lineman dropping back into coverage more. Can you do some things like that while you got that personnel out there, it's not as just simple as saying, well, they got 3 linebackers, put the guy in motion, and we know what they do.
But also, I think
speaking of guys or coverages, Tony, you made a great point. I'm sorry, Mel, if I'm jumping in there.
Go ahead. Sorry.
You made a good point about talking, defensive linemen dropping back, and you can make it look like man coverage, and you can run a combo coverage man zone and drop a defensive end to the flat. If like for example, Shaq, instead of covering the guy like you think he's going to do, he's going to come on a blitz.
Right.
Yeah.
So dropping the zone coverage in an area, and then you would have Coleman come down to pick up coverage in another area, so that they're hoping that the pressure gets to the quarterback before he has time to find an open man.
All right, guys.
So there's several things that can be done.
I think.
Let me point out. Amanda Helms put out a very wise point in the YouTube chat there that it is preseason, so we are not going to show, at least if we're smart, we're not going to show everything that we're going to do. So hopefully the coaches are looking at that, just like you said, and say, hey, they're sending somebody in motion each time. Other teams are going to see this is what we do when that happens. Well, when the bullets are flying for real, we're going to do something different.
Fantastic points from everybody around. Let's do one last thing about the Titans game and then move on. We got so much to do tonight. Joe, you mentioned early on, I want to say, tweeted about halftime in the game or something to that effect, that the tackling on the team stunk.
Oh, my God. Tony, that was the worst tackling I've seen in a long time. So many missed tackles. The angles the guys were taking were terrible. Nobody was wrapping up. And that really, really hurts the defense, because you might stop a guy for, a 2-yard gain if you tackle him and wrap him up and bring him down. But if you hit him, wrap him up, he's going to keep going and turn a 2-yard gain into a 6-yard gain.
Or how about this? You're completely right. Or how about when we saw it when we would have had a 2-yard loss?
Yeah.
And then you don't get it.
Right. And that's what kills your defense. The offense would have a 3-and-out, and you get the ball back for the offense, but because of missed tackles, they get the first down, and they get another first down, and then they get a touchdown, and that's where we were hurting ourselves.
I tell you who the guy that stood out more than anybody to me, Jeremy Cash. Jeremy Cash did not tackle worth a damn in that game. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you this, is Joey, you pointed out in game 1, and then he ended up having he kind of made up for it as the game went on. So a lot of people were eyeballing Jeremy Cash as a standout after game 1. But I remember you saying right off early that Jeremy Cash has not impressed me. And then we go to the Titans game, and what he tried to do was, I felt like he was trying to lay the boom on dudes.
Right.
He was trying to thump guys rather than tackle them. He did not tackle like Kuechly does or like Thomas Davis does. And I'm telling you, We know dudes who are hard tacklers when they tackle correctly and they still lay the boom.
Right.
You know, you see Thomas Davis wrap a dude up and destroy him. Jeremy Cash was trying to come in and fly in and throw the shoulder. And, guys, that can't fly in the NFL. Guys are too strong.
When you're getting down to the 53-man roster, the decision might be, do we keep Jeremy Cash or do we keep Damiere Byrd?
Right.
Well, to me, it's Byrd easily. We got too many linebackers.
That leaves you staying at safety. You got to take the best players.
We need safeties. We need safeties. Like, just go ahead and get all of them. All right, guys, let's go ahead and move on to the show. We got tons to do. We still got Mike Kaye, Jacksonville Jaguars beat writer. We got to break down the Jacksonville Jags game, and we've got the most important segment towards the end of the show, Cat Calls. You will want to stick around for this. So before we do that, I do want to say this, is you can continue to support the show by going to CarolinaCatChronicles.com and considering purchasing some of our merchandise. What you're seeing right here is what I'm wearing. Put it in the bank t-shirt. It's time to put the Lombardi in the bank. This is a C3 design limited edition t-shirt that you can get, as well as I'd like to encourage everybody to consider purchasing a Cam Wow. You can support us with that. And we also have got other gear like the I Stand With Cam t-shirt. Guys, we're going to go ahead and continue to, if I can get this, we're going to continue to the Mike Kaye interview, Jacksonville Jaguars beat writer for First Coast News. Here we go. A C3 exclusive. I'm here with Mike Kaye, Jacksonville Jaguars beat writer for First Coast News. You can follow him on Twitter at Mike_E_K, Kaye. Thanks for joining the podcast, man.
Sure thing. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so we're bringing you on because the Panthers are playing the Jacksonville Jaguars in Week 3, and that's the big preseason game that every team so-called looks forward to, even though every team says there's too many preseason games. So we want to know, we know a ton about the Panthers. We just want to learn a little bit more about the Jacksonville Jaguars so that we can better gauge how our performance is. And there's been a lot of change with the Jaguars in some ways. So new coach in Doug Marrone, and internal hire, and Tom Coughlin is back as executive VP with the team. What's new about this team with those changes?
Well, I think there's a little bit more of an accountability at Everbank Field. There's a level of, hey, we need to win now. There's urgency to win. That wasn't something that was really readily available with Gus Bradley. It was more about getting better each and every day. Now there's an urgency to win right away, and there's an urgency to have the best players on the field. If you get injured and you're not a big deal player, chances are you're not going to last very long.
Well, speaking with that and the big players on the field and things like that, the heat has been on Blake Bortles in the media. What's really going on there? Is he that bad? I mean, is he like hopeless bad? Because that's how people are making him out to be.
I don't know about hopeless, and remember, I got to stay objective, but I would say that he is he has not played well, and I've covered him the last 3 seasons, and there's not enough growth. There's been a lot of regression, and I think that's become frustrating to a lot of people in Jacksonville, internally and externally, when it comes to, the organization and the fan base.
I'm kind of weird. I've started to feel sorry for him, and one of the reasons that I've felt sorry for him, I shouldn't feel sorry for millionaires, but I felt like there was a lot of expectation thrust on a guy that came from a smaller school. He looks good in an NFL uniform. He has all of those, not the pedigree essentially, but all the paper numbers and things like that. Do you think that this is an example of that pressure to scout out the perfect specimen of a football player and then make him be better than he is?
Sure. I mean, there's no doubt that he was overdrafted. If this guy was a second or third round pick, people would rave about him.
Right.
I think it's a situation where, you always hear you fall in love. It only takes one team to fall in love with you for you to get drafted. Well, sometimes the team that falls in love with you probably falls too hard and, makes a careless, not necessarily a careless decision, but a decision that's too emotionally driven and perhaps misguided.
Do you think he can respond to the pressure he's under right now?
We're about to find out. I mean, I think, he and Teddy are going to split reps probably with the ones against the Panthers. And this game could be very telling. Last year, Game 3, they played the Bengals and couldn't do anything, and it really served as a preview for a 3-13 squad. We'll see where they go this time around, but you want to see a guy come out of this as a legit starting quarterback. I know it's a small sample size, but that's just kind of the way it is.
I'm a huge fan of Allen Robinson. I wanted the Panthers to draft him. I was happy. I wanted them to draft him at number 28 I guess it was 3 drafts ago when we took Kelvin Benjamin. How's he developing? Because I know some of your development as a receiver is dependent on, if the team around you, specifically the quarterback, he stepped back in his second year. How is Allen Robinson performing this year in his, I guess it would be his 3rd season or 4th season?
This is his 4th.
4th, that's 4th. Right.
I covered him the year that he blew up and he had the 14 touchdowns and 1,400 receiving yards. I think he's going to get closer back to that. I mean, it's hard to get back to that when you have so many weapons, but I think he's really at a point right now where he can get back to where he needs to be. I think last year everybody struggled. It was a perfect storm of awfulness. And I think he's going to bounce back from that with them establishing the run a little bit better.
He's got to get, he's a player that I would say he needs a little grace in his development. He doesn't have a lot of football experience. I think I went back and I was doing some reading when he was getting drafted. He missed his whole junior year of high school because because of growing pains. And he grew 6 inches in 6 weeks or something crazy like that. So, he can keep getting better. I think he's going to be awesome. I hope that they can get him the ball. How about this, though? A guy that we also had our eyes on in Carolina, probably never was realistically a possibility. What's going on with Leonard Fournette? Are there already injury concerns about him? Because that's what the concern was in the draft.
Well, he's got a foot injury, and it's in the left foot, which is connected to the left ankle that he had problems with all last year at LSU, forced him to miss 5 games. I think he's gonna be fine for week 1. He thinks he's gonna be fine for week 1. So I think injury concerns are a bit overblown at this point. If he doesn't play by the 4th preseason game or get cleared up, diagnosis, I think then it'll be time to worry. But we'll see.
How has he looked in camp so far?
I think he looks really good. I mean, he goes through blocks very well. He can find a hole. He's shifty. He's got the ability to turn up field on a dime. He's a great one-cut back, and I think he's got a lot of potential. All
right, so another big stud you guys brought in. It seems like every player the Panthers that fans are interested in. I guess everybody's interested in these people. How's Cam Robinson looking? I know that he's been thrust into a larger role faster than most expected.
Yeah, he's looked really good so far. Looked better than Brendan Albert before he retired in the opening week of training camp. Did very well against the Patriots. The entire offensive line had a bit of an off outing against the Buccaneers, but he looks legit. He looks like a legit left tackle.
Right on. What's the sense like in the locker room with all of this, the Bortles thing hanging over everybody's head and, the change in the coaching staff? You said these raising accountability. One of the stories that I saw that was kind of odd from last year was the defensive players publicly criticizing the defensive coordinator. How do you think the team is responding in the locker room to this new season?
Well, I think the Bortles Henny thing is a little bit, it's a fresh wound, and people are still kind of learning where everything stands. But I think for the most part, guys are really buying into Doug Marrone. They think he's a good coach. They like his attitude. They like his desire to win. It's a matter of just getting used to a little bit rougher around the edges type of management.
What have you learned about this team so far in training camp?
I've learned that they have a lot of talent, but there's still a long way to go. And really, the quarterback position is the most important, and so they've got to figure that out. If you don't have a quarterback, if you have two quarterbacks, you don't have one. You know what I mean? So it's a situation where everything's going to depend on the quarterback at this point.
What do you think the real strength of this team is? Because, there are, like you said, a lot of talent. Is it that secondary? Like, where is – because for the Panthers, we say it's our front seven, it's our defensive front seven, our linebacker core. That's the heart and soul of the team. And then there's Cam Newton. And then everything else is just, replaceable in so many ways. Well, now we got Christian McCaffrey. Where's the real source, the heart and soul of this team?
Well, I would say wide receiver is stacked. The cornerbacks haven't been healthy all off season, so it's hard to say them. But I think the depth of the defensive line is very good. I'm not saying that they're the best pass rushers, but I think they're going to be great run stoppers again, and I think they'll get a lot more pressure than they did last year. All
right, so the third preseason game, I know that the quarterback issue is going to be something what you guys want to learn. What do you think that Coach Marrone is really going to try to learn, be looking for most in the third preseason game outside that quarterback position, or maybe even there? What will he need to see in that position as well?
Well, I think with the quarterback position, you're going to want to see accuracy and the ability to make great decisions when called upon. I think he also wants to see how consistent his offensive line can be. They really need to find the left guard. That's still open as well. I also think you want to be able to establish some sort of pass rush as well.
What are you going to be watching, Mike?
I'm going to be looking for the pass rush. I'm going to be looking to see how the secondary depth steps up. A lot of guys have been ruled out of this game already. A.J. Boye, T.J. Yeldon, Michael Rivera, guys like that have been really ruled out. So it'll be interesting to see what happens from here, because this defense has to eventually gel together. I think the safeties are really good. I think the linebackers have a little bit more clarity now. So I think overall it's going to be an interesting demonstration for the Jaguars.
I want to ask you a personal question about, like, professional question, but so one of the things that I I would struggle with as running a website and a podcast is we get so internally focused on our team. We are hyper focused on every little thing, from every guy, the fifth cornerback, to all these different things that sometimes it's hard to look outside enough. How do you run into that where you get kind of like turned inward so much, and what do you do? And specifically, maybe in this case, what are you going to be looking in at the Panthers, or what do you want to know that could tell you more about the Jaguars?
Well, I think, first you always got to stay objective, but with that comes wanting to study another team, especially an opponent. Now, the preseason I don't get too hyped up on because the games aren't that important. The matchups are more vanilla. The play calling's vanilla. So, like a preseason game like this, I'm interested in the stories of former Jaguars on the roster. I believe there's 3 defensive tackles. None of them are probably going to make the team, but it's interesting to see where they've grown in their development. It's also interesting to see, how your wide receivers do against, backup depth at cornerback. It's going to be interesting to see, how this pass rush does against a banged-up offensive line. I was not a huge fan of the Matt Khalil contract signing.
You're not alone. You are not alone. Yeah. That is like that's the one source. It could have possibly gotten the GM fired.
Right. Well, and that said, too, Trey Turner is probably my favorite guard prospect the last 6 years. So it'll be interesting to see how he's developed. I think this is an opportunity more so to look into some of the guys at the bottom of the depth chart to see if, maybe the Jaguars need a depth tight end. Maybe they need another running back if they keep dealing with injuries. Maybe they need a swing tackle. Maybe, you know what I mean? So it's an opportunity to kind of go grocery shopping for the team you cover. Oh,
speaking of that, I get a lot of questions about this, and maybe I'll just pick your brain on it. How much do you think that the change this year from where we dropped from instead of going from 90 to 75 to 53, now they're just doing one cut and done from 90 to 53. Do you foresee that kind of, affecting things at all?
I mean, I think it gives guys another opportunity, which means you may see the second team out there a lot longer in game 3 and maybe in game 4 than in previous years where like the third and fourth string guys really are the heavy workload of the night. Because I think you want to take every avenue. I know Doug Marone's a big guy on giving guys a shot and giving guys a chance, making guys earn it. They've made about 10 moves or 10 swaps of roster spots over the last 4 weeks. It's hard to make a team in that span of time.
Right.
And so it gives guys that were late additions the opportunity to really step up.
All right, last question. We'll get you out of here. What's the future with the Jaguars? Is it like you said, win now, accountability, or win soon, or is it really more of getting better for next year?
Well, I think each step is a building block, right? So they won 3 games last year. I think the idea is to get to 6 this year and then make the playoffs the year after.
Yeah, it's a legitimate possibility in the division. You're always contending. That's all you got to do is win your division. All right, guys, that's Mike Kaye with First Coast News. Thanks so much for joining the C3 podcast, Mike.
Sure thing. Thanks for having me.
All right, guys, we're back. We got a couple of things to finish out before the show's over, but look, a lot of information on the Jaguars there. Right, Mario says London Jaguars coming 2020. They could, with all of that talent, supposedly, I just don't feel like they're going to be any good.
It's such a quarterback-driven league, man. You don't get that position figured out, it's going to make the rest of your team look like crap. If Joe said, I don't know if he said it on the show, but he said that DA would be the number 1 and best quarterback on the Jags team if he was on that team right now.
Slim J 513 in the YouTube chat echoed that. Joe didn't say it in there, but he said basically was saying the same thing too.
And just think how average the Panthers would be if DA was our quarterback for the entire year. We'd be below average.
Trouble.
Yeah.
Maybe be in trouble.
I think
they just not been smart with the quarterback position. They did try to draft a potential Bortles, but it hasn't worked out. So this year, there were some guys that they really should have looked at in the draft. I know you feel like you're spending another draft pick on a quarterback, but
where did they pick?
Nothing. He has shown absolutely nothing. And
who did they pick first this year?
Who did they pick first? They picked Leonard Fournette first.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
And then they went Cam Robinson.
Which was a need, but my God, quarterback is just so important. Such an important
But they can't. Here's the
position.
thing they make a problem with. Here's the one thing that's a problem with the NFL, and I don't know how to fix it. I would try to go defense until a game-changing quarterback comes around. But just because you need a quarterback doesn't mean that the quarterback in the draft is there. Even if you got the first pick. Look, that's what happened with Bortles. They needed a quarterback, right? And they they picked a guy that looked good in a football uniform, right? He could throw the ball far. He could run fast enough. He was tall enough. He was big.
Yeah. He did check all the boxes.
But here's the thing: is he just hadn't done it well. You'd be better served. This is where like a Teddy, help me out now because he's been out of the league 2 years.
Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah, like Teddy Bridgewater doesn't have that. They'll be like, well, his hands are too small, but he plays better than all of them. Right? Yeah. And that is look who's been trying to do this for years. The Browns have done this over and over and over again. And that is just because you got the number 1 pick and you need a quarterback, doesn't mean that game-changing quarterback is there. And then the problem is when you do pick them, you got to put 4 years into them. Because you can't really. All right, so look, we're going into our most important preseason game, Game 3, right? What do you want to know about the Panthers? Cam Newton's going to be playing. Curtis Samuel's going to be playing. I feel like we've seen a lot of the Panthers roster, a lot more of it than I expected. I think we've seen more Julius Peppers. By the way, what about Julius Peppers trying to chase down homeboy Kellen Clemens or whatever his guy was, some dude, whatever. Like, I would have been shit my pants if I was that dude.
It does not look like he's lost that, does he?
No, not at all. Not at all. But what do you want to see in this game, Game 3? Joe, go ahead.
Definitely want to see Cam. I want to see the defense tackle better. That's a big thing for me. If I can see the defense wrap up, make every tackle, take good angles to the ball, I'll be happy.
Okay. Mel, go ahead.
Well, the question really for me is what I don't want to see. And I don't want to see any injuries. I say take the starters out after one series. It doesn't matter how they play. You're going to forget about it by the time the season starts. Get them out of there. I just don't want any kind of stupid injuries.
I'm 100% with you. I'd rather I would rather play our twos all day. Like, I would rather have our twos play a full game, our 2s and 3s split the entire game, and us just know this. Come out of this game and say this. Look, first, like, this idea that Cam Newton's going to knock the rust off in a quarter is bullcrap. I'm sorry. Like, it's going to be like the littlest amount of rust you do knock off, so it's not even worth it to me. I say the key positions, you take all those guys out. You take all the vets out early. After the first quarter, let them just show off for the fans just for a moment and then get them out. But I say this is put a lot of time in the 2s and the 3s and say this. We got to figure out one thing, and that is or two things. Who's going to make the bubble? But also this. Is the guys that make the bubble and make the team, are they good enough? Or do we need to go shopping? And quick, like in a hurry. And I don't think that you're going to get anything. Look, I don't think we've seen enough of the 2s and 3s with the right guys. I say you put a couple of 1s in there, and then put Bird and Funchess out there together.
And also the kicking battle. I want to see who went between Butker and Gano. One thing I haven't seen from Butker that he's got to do if he's going to beat out Gano is he has to be able to kick off.
Like, get it out of the end zone.
Right. That's an excellent point. And Butker comes out there and makes a long field goal true. And did you notice they put him out there first last week?
They did, which was great.
I don't think it was anything other than just putting him out there first. Letting him be the first one to break the ice, so to speak.
Okay. Guys, I hope you have stuck around because I've got the most epic segment to bring out to you guys. We are introducing now, for the first time ever, this is the C3 Cat Calls, right? And you can call the C3 podcast and leave a message on our voicemail system. 252-228-5098 is the number. I expect every one of you that are watching to get your creative juices flowing, because this first set of calls, this week is going to knock your socks off. And what we're going all out, Joe. Joe, this is a complete surprise to you. And let me make sure all my mics are turned way up. Here it goes.
So what are your thoughts on catcalling?
Yeah, it's pretty you shouldn't do that to somebody.
And how did that make you feel?
Very uncomfortable.
So how do you think catcalling makes the person feel?
It feels good, like...
Who's that cat sitting in the back corner with his face buried in his notebook? Who's that kid that can use one?
This is Panther Nasty calling C3. After the last 2 games, I know you can't go by preseason, at least for our team, but I am concerned about Funches. I want to see something. I don't want to be where we got these dreams of what he's going to be, and then when the games are being played, he basically disappears or just, underwhelming. So hopefully this is a year where Cam have weapons, and one of those weapons are Devin Funches.
Name we've talked about, guys. Here's J-Dub bringing a strong call, coming in number 2. All right.
Hey, C3 Podcast, Panthers Nation. This is your boy J-Dub. I'm just calling in for the news line. Hoping to hear about your opinion on the Curtis Samuel situation. I heard he had a full practice today, and even though he's been out, it seems like he's healthy now. And I think this is maybe one of those situations like one of those high draft pick quarterbacks where he actually gets to sit before he gets to do stuff. He learns the playbook. He puts his nose in, puts in the work to know his job and know where he's supposed to be and understand the design. Just wanted to hear your guys' take on it. Love you, Panther Nation, and love you, C3 Podcast. Go Panthers, keep pounding.
Joe, I'll open that up to you. Is a lot of talent with Curtis Samuel, a lot of explosiveness. You get the guy in a lot of chalk talk. Maybe the curve isn't as much as we like to think.
I think you're right. I think they're he's probably sat in every meeting, been involved in every conversation. I'm sure he's when he has been able to, he's been out on the field watching and listening. So now it's just a matter of incorporating what you know in your head and getting the physical side of everything back together. Speed is going to be there. He's going to be fast, whatever route he decides to run. So we know we have that. And just the threat of him being on the field is somewhat of an advantage for us because the defense knows, okay, this guy, wherever he goes, he can fly.
Yeah, no doubt.
Aware of where he is.
All right, final cat call for the week. Bringing it strong, the strongest, the heaviest hitter there is, Mario.
C3 Nation, what's up, y'all? It's your boy Mario in the Kaye. Got a couple of thoughts about the Panthers' second preseason game against Tennessee. Here we go. I know Cam and Luke didn't play, but man, that was a tough first quarter to watch. Derek Anderson reminded us why he's a backup, and Funches showed us just how far he still has to go. You got to catch that one, bud. There's no two ways about it, and secure it up. The secondary gave us a high school style wide open touchdown that left you with like a I can get out there and do better type of feeling. It wasn't all bad though. One thing we learned is that we can run. CMC gets his first TD and shows off his breakaway speed from both the backfield and the passing game. Also with a couple of beautiful runs and a touchdown, Cameron Artis-Payne, that dude does not get enough love. The offensive line definitely has been improved. A huge, huge reason for this success. I think we can agree on that. One last thing to notice from my end is the performance of Joe Webb. Is it me, or does this dude always light up the preseason for us? He has a style similar to Cam, but obviously a smaller skill set. With that said, my question for you guys is this. Do you think Joe Webb should leapfrog DA on the depth chart? I mean, the numbers don't lie. All right, guys, that's it for me. Peace.
Mel, I'll open that up to you. Mario swinging damn sledgehammers on cat calls for the first week. Does Joe Webb leapfrog DA?
And I think that's a great question, and that's a question that a lot of callers to WFNZ have been asking too. Mm-hmm. And folks like Frank Garcia have said that you're crazy if you think that he should, because DA's the vet. DA knows the offense. He knows how to get them in and out of the huddle and has command of the offense, and he's almost like another quarterback coach in the room. But I'm calling BS because I think it is time. I would put Joe Webb, at least start him, give him more reps ahead of DA, because what do you got to lose? Last year, DA blew games for us. Remember the Suitgate game in Seattle where he started for us? Awful decision. Started off just just an awful interception, cost us the game, and he's made boneheaded plays in the preseason. He looked bad last year anytime he got into the game. Joe Webb's not going to do worse than that. And he's got the wheels to when a play breaks down, he can break it and run, and you saw that in this past game. So what do you have to lose? Their backups. If he gets out there and he sucks it up, you've got DA as your third, but I think his ceiling's higher than DA's at this point.
Let me tell you what I think about DA, other than the DA blocking me on Twitter, which is like the story of this podcast. If you haven't heard it, you heard it again. This is my thing that I would say is that I think that, look, y'all that are all talking about how DA can go start here and do all of this, that's 3 years ago, DA.
Right.
I think he's really not. I think he's stepping back as a player. I think I'm not as impressed anymore. I understood 3 years ago, yes, he could have been the best backup in the league, the best starter. But here's my thing. If Cam Newton gets hurt, it don't matter if it's DA or Joe Webb. This whole damn season is a bunch of trash after that. That's how dependent this team is on Cam Newton. So you might as well not even have a backup. Right? I mean, it's that close. And so, you know what? Look, it's Joe Webb. He plays. He's made this team when he shouldn't have. Yeah, 3 quarterbacks on a team that shouldn't have no 3 quarterbacks because he can do all these different things and all of this. I don't know if he leapfrogs DA, but I think this is that the gap gets closer just by DA stepping backwards as much as Joe Webb stepping forward.
Yeah, and to be fair to DA, and it's hard for me to be fair to him if he blocks my boy, right? If he blocks on Twitter, we shouldn't be fair to him. But to be fair to him, small sample sizes, right? Preseason. Now, he did make a beautiful pass to Kelvin Benjamin in that Houston, Texas game.
Perfect.
That was a great throw. So, I think it is harsh to say he's trash. I don't think he is, but I don't think – if maybe for one game, if Cam has to miss one game, hey, you can roll with him. But to me, Joe Webb, he brings a dimension that DA doesn't. He could still run that zone read option. He can still run when it breaks down. So to me, but like you said, it's a moot point because if Cam's out long term, doesn't matter who's back there. We're not the same team. We're not going far.
No, it's over.
It goes as far as Cam takes us.
All right.
Just for kicks and giggles, I'd like to see Joe Webb run out there with the first team offense and just see how he does.
Why not? Why not? And you know what? It's not as so much as as DA even played. Well, DA played bad. He played terrible in that game.
It's okay to say it. He did.
But in the Texans game, he played well. He played very well in the Texans game. So one good game, one bad game is a wash. What we got is Joe Webb is he just is exciting a little bit. Yeah. And man, when he snuck out, the reason we all are over on the Joe Webb train is because my man snuck out on that play that Dixon blew that block, and he should have been sacked. And all of a sudden, he's like 15 yards upfield, and we're all like, "Yeah, baby!" Looking like
he's been on his backside,
looking like a Dollar General Cam Newton. That's what he was looking like. All right. Look, we got to get out of here. We got to get our ice up picks in. So let's just let's head into that moment.
Drop the ice.
All right. It's our segment where we hit the ice up picks. Look, before we get in there, let's do the opposite of the ice up picks. I want to give a shout out to Panther Nasty, to Mario Marcioni, and to J-Dub for bringing it strong on the first segment of cat calls. You can call that number 252-228-5098. Leave your message, and what we invite you to do is have fun with it, to bring the pain, to talk a little trash about the last week or the upcoming opponent, to tell us how you feel about the team, and to get your voice out there to Panther Nation. That is what cat calls is for, guys. And I got to tell you, the guys that started it off, have set the bar high, and I hope and I expect all of these people watching tonight to get on that train and to start writing your notes down, because that's where it's at.
Put that number out there in the chat room, Tony.
I've already done it. 252-228-5098. One more time. 252-228-5098. All right, guys, let's jump to our Ice Up picks. Mel, do you got one for us?
Well, it's one of those days where I felt like I was really struggling to find somebody to ice up. There always seems like there is a candidate, but I don't know. You got the obvious of the Panthers. They need to ice up and play better, but it is preseason, so I'm not getting all panicked. So I'm going to the good old standby. Anytime you're in doubt, you need something. Who do we ice up on this show?
Cleveland Browns.
The Atlanta Falcons.
There you go.
This just in. They blew a 28-3 lead. That makes everything better when you think about it.
Did you see all those eclipse pictures of the eclipse? And it was like showing
Kelly Story on Twitter posted that picture of the eclipse. It said it's the most beautiful thing I ever saw. And it said,
oh, gosh. It's crazy.
That's awesome. So, Atlanta Falcons, we're coming for you, baby. We're coming for that NFC South title. You better ice up, son.
All right, Joe, what you got for me?
Oh, I'm icing up the team we talked about most tonight on this podcast, other than the Panthers. I'm icing up the Jacksonville Jaguars because they do have some talent on that team, and their lack of talent at quarterback is really holding back this team. They could probably contend for the division, at least be in it somewhat, if they had a fairly good quarterback. And I'm icing them up because I think to go and sign Cap. Now, I'm sure many of you know I'm not a big fan of Cap, but I'm speaking in strictly football terms here. He would do a lot to help this team. As a quarterback, he would bring a lot to this offense and really add a dimension that would open things up for Leonard Fournette and the rest of the offense. So I'm icing up the Jaguars as an organization and the owner, Shad Khan, for not going out and making this move. They have to lose. They suck. So honestly, what do they have to lose?
Well,
you can only be better. They could not be any worse.
How about this? Is that Joe? Is that if they don't do this, it's going to be the other team taking a knee at the fourth quarter. In the fourth quarter.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
Well done, man.
All right, call to the Jacksonville Jaguars ice up. My ice up pick goes to Car Panther News at Car Panthers News, who was suspended from Twitter. Because they were a bunch of former high school kids, is my guess, who started a Twitter account that just basically didn't retweet other people. They just took other people's tweets, specifically reporters, pictures, everything you could think of, and presented it as their own. Now, I guess I would say this is that the guys were on top of so many things. Boy, they followed Twitter like some damn ninjas copying stuff. Like they were copying mess before people even finished pressing tweet. But they did. They knew how to market so many things and package it in a way. But their Twitter suspended their account today because they stole people's music. And boy, you can't steal music on the internet without getting caught anymore. And Car Panthers News got caught and their Twitter account got suspended. I will point out this, is that at one point they tried to start their own podcast. They said they were going to start their own podcast. And that their catchphrase was going to be by fans for fans. And
Yep.
then some C3 fans hit us up and hit them up, and they're like, sorry, already taken. You know, we abandoned that catchphrase in many ways. We still use that phrase as when we think it and we believe it, but we stopped kind of pushing it so hard because A, they stole it, and B, like, I feel like every podcast that comes on now says that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but to you, Car Panther News, you got it. And all of your Twitter followers need to come and follow @cat_chronicles because we're icing you up, son. All right. That's the C3 podcast. Look, the original, bro. Sorry, ain't nothing stolen here.
Okay.
But maybe some like Twitter videos where we then chop up into some things. But other than that, like, look, this is all original. Started with the halftime hangout, 2 jokers, brought in the third chord, Mel Mayock, to make the most consistent, best Panthers podcast on the internet with the best fans. Shout out to Matthew Seafong, who's deployed, I'm pretty sure. Mailed him his shirt. He's in the C3 Fantasy Football League. A shout out to all of those people in the military. All of those Americans out there helping protect our nation and to helping the C3 podcast continue in that process. Joe Riolano, I know you appreciate that.
Oh, yeah, you better believe that.
Mel Mayock, tell them where they can hit you up till next Tuesday. We got to get out of here, bro.
Hit me up anytime at Panthers Drafter. Let's talk C3 fantasy football. Let's talk anything you want to talk about. And I can't wait for the draft Sunday night. Be there, be ready.
Sunday night, C3 Fantasy Football Challenge Draft. You be there at 9. You put the Game of Thrones in the background. You draft your team. And if you don't, you're just a punk. You're just a punk and you get burned by a dragon. We'll see you next week.
Good night, y'all.
So many buttons to press. So many buttons to press.